How's lockdown been for you? That's almost been the question that people are asking them. And how's lockdown been for you? Interestingly, one of the questions people have someone says, "I've got nothing to say. Lockdown has stopped me having a conversation. I haven't got news. I haven't got things to say. I haven't been anywhere. I haven't done anything. Actually, lockdown feels like I've been in a bubble. I've been on my own, or I've been stuck with a small group of people. Someone I was talking to the other day said, I haven't seen anyone that I haven't given birth to in weeks. Actually, that idea that we miss human interaction, miss adult interaction sometimes. Sort of actually for some people, lockdown has been incredibly lonely. Some of us are introverts, and even as an introvert, I've struggled. And actually, I've been really lucky. Although I have found lockdown quite hard, I've at least been able to go to work. I was at least living in a community. I've at least had people around, which some people haven't had. Other people, even as an introvert, you need people contact. In fact, solitary confinement is a form of torture. It's an abuse of our human rights. And the lack of physical touch, again, is an abuse of our human rights. I remember a friend on Facebook who's a single minister in the north of England wrote something. I can't remember how many weeks she said something, or days it was, that she'd gone without a hug. And I just remember reading that and just sort of having that sort of ache in my side, just thinking, for some people, you just need a hug. But some people, at sometimes, we just need a hug. We just need to know physically that somebody's there. Sometimes the human touch can mean and say more than a million words. For her, clearly lockdown was tough. In fact, she's a real extrovert, a real people person. And so thinking the idea of lockdown, sustained lockdown, on our own must have been really tough. For a lot of people, lockdown has been a really hard and tough time, and throw into it personal circumstances. When tough things have happened during lockdown has almost taken a highlighter and made those tough and difficult times even harder, even more tough. A funeral where you're not able to have all the people around you that you like. Maybe it's a difficult situation, and again, you just don't have the support. Maybe when you've got something hard happening and you want something to take your mind off it, actually just sustained time on your own can sometimes be too much. Going through a tough time on your own, sometimes we overthink things. We sometimes, dwelling in our own company, can beat ourselves up, can leave us in a really bad place, can lower our resilience. Sometimes too, the people we're living with, the people we're sharing our bubble with, aren't always the greatest for us. Sometimes the relationships that are in the same house as us aren't always positive. Sometimes we fall out with our siblings, with our spouse, with our kids. Actually being stuck together can sometimes cause lots of friction. Sometimes can be a really tough thing, and sometimes it can be a wonderful and a blessed thing. Sometimes actually sustained time together can be amazing. So lockdown, what can I say about lockdown? The best phrase I've thought of for lockdown comes at the start of Charles Dickens's A Tale of Two Cities, and it says this: "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times." Actually, circumstances happen, things happen, life happens, good things happen, bad things happen. It happens, life happens, and it's hard, and it's tough, and it's challenging. But it can also be beautiful, wonderful, special, and precious. And the crazy thing is, that is how life is. Life has the highs and the lows. Actually, you can have a good day, you can have a bad day, you can have, and they can happen on the same day. I remember we were having a laugh at the food pantry that I help out in, and someone was saying about how complex human beings are, and about how that you can have some people who come to a project like that who are incredibly generous and don't want to take more than they need, even though they're actually in quite dire circumstances. And other people will turn up and will want as much as they can possibly get away with having. You know, we have, you know, and I remember saying something like, it's amazing that, you know, we can see people are both selfless and selfish. And I was thinking, the crazy thing is, I can be selfless and I can be selfish within the same day, sometimes within the same hour, sometimes within the same breath. We as human beings are full of contradictions, and life's full of contradictions. How has lockdown been to you? Probably it's been a mix. Probably good things have happened and bad things have happened. Probably on some days it's felt okay, other days it felt unbearable. You know, actually we have a life where it goes up and it goes down. And as we think a little bit about lockdown over our sessions, as we listen to other people, I'm going to think about a few different Bible characters that might help us. Today, I want to think of Job. Now, Job might be a character you really resonate with in lockdown. Job is somebody who's suffering. In fact, I feel very Job-like at points in my life over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years or so. In fact, a little longer than that. I didn't get this job I didn't get this job in Southsea, and going back a little while now. And people say, oh, well, that's because God's got something better for you around the corner. God's got blessings for you around the corner. As you've gone around a few corners now, quite a lot of corners, and life's got tougher and worse and more painful. And you realise that health, wealth, and blessing aren't round every corner necessarily. Sometimes life is hard and it's tough. Sometimes the sun does shine, and sometimes it feels like it's wet, rainy, difficult mornings. Maybe lockdown has felt like that for you. Maybe you feel a bit like Job, where you're thinking, I just can't cope with another thing. I feel like this lockdown, I've lost everything. I have lost so much. Maybe losing your daily rhythms, maybe even losing your job, or maybe even if you haven't lost your job, just losing that purpose you had from doing something, loss of identity. Maybe relationships have come to an end. Maybe relationships have got frayed. Who am I? Questions are there. And maybe you're also coping with the fact that in this sort of strange and weird time, you're surrounded by people who are a bit like Job's comforters. Interestingly, for most of the book, he has a couple of friends, in fact, he has 4 friends, talking absolute rubbish to him, kind of blaming him, kind of saying it's all his fault, all his suffering, kind of saying really unhelpful things. And maybe that's been locked down for you as well. Life's been hard, and the people around you have just not been the people who've been supporting you as well as they could have done. In fact, they've been saying stuff to you that really hasn't helped. And the weird thing is, they're hard to get away from. Job didn't need them, but they kept on talking at him anyway. Maybe you feel a bit talked at this lockdown. Maybe you're like, I just don't want any more advice. I don't want any more pep talks. I don't want any more Zoom calls or YouTube sermons or just someone in my face anymore. I just want to come out of lockdown having been battered and bruised a bit, and just know that God wants to scoop me up in his arms. Maybe it's almost that spiritual thing of, at least now we've passed the 17th of this month, we can at least hug each other. Well, maybe you're thinking, I need a hug from God. Maybe that's all you're thinking. I don't understand what's going on. It's been hard, it's been tough, and I haven't got any answers. And I've come out of lockdown feeling diminished, broken, crushed, and all these people being all excited. Actually, that's not how I'm feeling. I'm feeling as though for me, lockdown has been traumatic. Lockdown has been difficult. And I do believe that there may be greater days ahead. I do believe that life will get back to normal. I do believe that, there's fun times on the corner. But at the moment, I'm still hurting from a difficult season. And I can't rush it. I can't pretend it wasn't difficult, and I can't pretend I'm not hurting. And I haven't got any answers. I haven't got any answers of why it's been so hard and tough, which is actually where Job is. Interestingly, Job doesn't get the answers really. All Job gets is God saying that he's God, and actually that he is bigger and isn't and can't be put in a box quite as simply as his friends would have them believe. God is saying to them, actually, I don't fit in your box. I'm bigger, and you're not gonna get me or understand everything. But actually, don't say that sort of stuff, because that sort of stuff isn't helpful, and you need Job to pray for you and ask blessing there. But most of the book is just Job in the midst of untold suffering with unhelpful advice, and it just feels rubbish. And yet at the end, there is that great picture of God blessing and doing great things in Job's life. It's a beautiful picture at the end. But you're thinking, you've got a long way and lots of chapters to get through before you get to that end. And yeah, maybe for all of us, we do believe that God is able to bless, that God maybe does have good things in store, that eternity awaits us and life, and there's blessing in the kingdom here now. But at the moment, it's still painful. It's still tough. It's still hard. And that's okay, because God knows, as it says in the Bible, God knows of what we're made. He knows that we are but dust, as it says. And so actually, I think I want to start this talk on lockdown by saying it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to hear all these people talking about reflective times in lockdown, or doing things differently, or emerging like a butterfly from the chrysalis, and you're thinking, actually, I'm staggering out of the wilderness, sunburnt and dehydrated. But interestingly, there's another verse in the Bible that talks about coming out of the desert, and the image used is of God holding us on his arm, helping us from the desert, meeting us in that place of wilderness, and bringing us from wilderness to life. So maybe for you, lockdown has felt a bit Job-like. If it has, that's okay, but own it. Allow people to pray with you, people you trust, people who are going to say the right and helpful things. Be kind to yourself. Be reasonable with your expectations. Say, I've been through a tough time, and that's okay. God knows of what I made. His yoke is easy, his burden is light. He's not a God who snuffs out a smouldering wick or breaks a bruised reed. He's gentle. He's kind. And in the midst of the pain, which I can't really explain, he's still there. He's never left us. But he does promise that he will fight for us. That even though we don't understand, even though there might not seem to be any clear answers, he's still on the throne. He's still God. And his love for you hasn't diminished at all. Maybe lockdown for you feels a bit like a Job season.